Ready? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavadgita Ashtottara Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavadgita Ashtottara Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Varanga. So, because we had an emergency special setup crew, I didn't get a chance to see that this thing was properly situated in front of that camera. So I'm going to move this a little bit to the right. And then we can make it. You know, that's all right. That's good. Okay, let me first determine. And Danella, you remember exactly where we are? You were here on Wednesday, I think. So I got a bookmark here. Let's see. Is it text 4? Chapter 16. I'm pretty sure it's text 4. Anyway, it's good because this is the start of the section on the demons. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 8th day of May, 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Dravida Swami Prabhupada. Time out. Is that door, we haven't been able to open that door? Is it locked now? Is it broken? See if you can push that door open now. Because then we can get it from the other side. Okay, so it's open. That's it. All right. Have a seat, Prabhu. Have a seat. All right, so we're all set, right? Text number 4. Did I say that? How far did I get? Okay. Dambo, Darpo, Abhimanas, Cha, Krodha, Parusham, Evacha, Ajnanam, Chabijatasya, Partha, Sampadam, Asurim, Dambho Darpo Abhimanascha. Page 623. Krodha Parushamevacha Ajnanam Chabijatasya Partha Sambhadamasurim Dambho Darpo Bhimanascha Krodha Parushamevacha Ajnanam Chabijatasya Partha Sambhadam Asurim Dambho Darpo Bhimanascha Krodha Parushamevacha Ajnanam Chabijatasya Partha Sambhadam Asurim. Madhupur, you want to do it? Dambho Darpo Bhimanascha Krodha Parushamevacha Ajnanam Chabijatasya Partha Sampadam Asurim. Vasika. Dambho Darpo Bhimanascha Krodha Parushamevacha Ajnanam Chabijatasya Partha Sambhadam Asurim. Prabhu? Dambho Darpo Bhimanascha Krodha Parushamevacha Ajnanam Chabijatasya Partas sambadam asadim. Dambo darpo bimanascha. Krodha parushamevacha. Ajnanam chabhijatasya. Partas sambadam asadim. Sureshwar, you on the right page? I told you the wrong page. 621. You got it right? 621. 621. Okay, go ahead. Dambo darpo bimanascha. Krodha parushamevacha. Ajnanam chabhijatasya. Partas sambadamasidim. Anyone else want to try?
I will try. Dambo darpo bhimanascha.
Dambho darpo bhimanascha.
Krodha parusyam evacha.
Krodha parushamevacha.
Ajnanam chabhijatasya.
Ajnanam chabhijatasya.
Partha sampadamasurim.
Partas sambadamasidim. Word by word. Dambha, pride. Darpaha, arrogance. Abhimanaha, conceit. Cha, and krodha, anger. Parusham, harshness. Eva, certainly. Cha, and ajnanam, ignorance. Cha, and abhijatasya, one who is born of. Partha, O son of Prita. Sampadam, the qualities. Asurim, of the demoniac nature. Translation. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance, these qualities belong to those of demoniac nature, O son of Prita. Purport. In this verse, the royal road to hell is described. The demoniac want to make a show of religion and advancement in spiritual science, although they do not follow the principles. They are always arrogant or proud in possessing some type of education or so much wealth. They desire to be worshipped by others and demand respectability, although they do not command respect. Over trifles, they become very angry and speak harshly, not gently. They do not know what should be done and what should not be done. They do everything whimsically, according to their own desire, and they do not recognize any authority. These demoniac qualities are taken on by them from the beginning of their bodies in the wombs of their mothers. And as they grow, they manifest all these inauspicious qualities. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakya Chakshur Udmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, this is a distinct new part of the chapter in which Krishna is going to be describing the demoniac nature. First, he described, I think it was 26 qualities of the devotees, divided into those that pertain especially to the sannyasis, to the householders, brahmacharis, the Dudas, Vaishyas, like that. But now, he's beginning his description of the demoniac. Most of the chapter is about that. So the first one is always interesting because it's mentioned elsewhere and often in context with the demons, and that is Damba. Now Prabhupada always mentioned pride, and pride is really the main aspect of this quality, but it also has to do with pretension. And that's what he's describing at the beginning of this purport. The demoniac want to make a show of religion and advancement in spiritual science, although they do not follow the principles. They want to be thought of as religious, as pious, but they're not really religious and pious. This is what Damba is. Damba is hypocrisy and pretension, and it has the underlying stratum of pride, that they're so proud that they want to be thought of as pious and religious, although it's not their real nature. When we come to this verse, I always cite an experience I had when I was a kid. I grew up in the 50s and 60s when there was a magazine called Life magazine was very prominent. It used to be Time and Life. I think they were owned by the same company. Time was a smaller magazine. It still exists, and news basically. Life was like the Sunday magazine, New York Times magazine. It was special articles, and it was big format and full color, shiny paper, very popular. They did a special one week, I think it was a weekly, on the mafia in New York, and they had a rogues gallery. There's pictures like 2 or 3 lines, maybe a total of 30 of leading mafiosi. And they all, just their faces kind of manifested these qualities, the conceit, and none of them looked happy. All of them looked angry and haughty and whatever you may call it. But they were mostly Catholics, because in those days it was the Italians who were mostly the mafia, and they would religiously attend church. Because they didn't want to be seen as irreligious. They wanted to be seen as members of the community, But they had none of the qualities of, a good Catholic, really, gentle and kind to others. So that's what that kind of when I read this this translation, I always think of those pictures of those guys. But we see throughout the Bhagavatam so many examples. Of course, we just had Nrsingadev's appearance day, so Hiranyakashipu perfectly embodies all of these, all of these. But of course, there's a backstory to Hiranyakashipu, because he was originally one of the pair, I don't know which, Jai and Vijay, who were gatekeepers in Vaikuntha. They were, devotees there. But they made the mistake of stopping the Kumaras from entering into Vaikuntha, and they were cursed to come down. They come down as like three births as demons, and then they could go back. So the first pair was Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. Now it's always good to look at the names. The names are very indicative of the character. Hiranyaksha. Who remembers what Hiranyaksha means? And Aksha? Always looking for gold. It said that Hiranyaksha got into Brazil and mined so much gold that it unbalanced the earth, and it fell down into the Garbhodak Ocean. And that's why Varaha had to come up and save it, and did battle with Hiranyaksha and killed Hiranyaksha. And that enraged Hiranyakashipu, his brother. He also has the name Hiranya there, gold. But the other word is Kashipu, soft bedding. And Prabhupada says, yes, this is demons. They want gold and soft bed and the bed companion. And the bed companion. So this is the nature of the demons, So they perfectly embodied demonic qualities. Hiranyakashipu was a heavy-duty demon. He was so powerful by his austerities. Austerity itself is not pious. That's why Prabhupada would often pair it with austerities and penance. Hiranyakashipu was doing austerity. He wasn't doing any penance. Penance means repentant. That's the last thing the demons are, is repentant. You see what I'm saying? But the austerity itself gave him so much power. He wanted to be immortal. He wanted to become even more powerful because he wanted to kill Vishnu, who killed his brother. So he went to some mountain range. I forget where it was, and he started just holding his hands up and just standing there. Days, weeks, years at a time. It was so powerful that he started to emanate a brilliant light, and his whole body became covered by an anthill. And they ate his body. But he was also a mystic yogi. He kept himself, the air circulating within his bones, prana, so he's still breathing. Finally, it became so intolerable for the demigods that they went to Brahma and said, can't you do something, please? So he comes down. And there he sees this big mound, and Hiranyakashipu was in there because the light's emanating, and he sprinkles it with some water from his kamandalu. This is a water pot he carries. It's spiritual water. And so Hiranyakashipu comes out. He's got this powerful, youthful, new body, And of course, and it's interesting, the prayers, he addresses Hiranyakashipu as the Supreme Personality. He addresses Brahma as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He wants the benediction. One benediction. Eternal life, immortality. Brahma says, sorry, I'm not immortal myself. I live only 40 billion years, and then it's all over. So that's his lifetime of this Brahma. So he famously asked for all kinds of other benedictions that he thought would equate with immortality. I won't be killed inside or outside. I won't be killed in day or night. I won't be killed by any weapon. I won't be killed by any creature you create, and on and on and on like that, in the sky, on the earth, or in the water. So he had it covered. Brahma gave him all these benedictions. So in the Shringadev had to be half man, half lion. He wasn't he wasn't a man, he wasn't a beast. He killed him in the threshold. He killed him in the dusk, not day, not night, on the lap, not in the air, like all of the, no weapon, just the nails. So anyway, we had that. So that he was, and we have so many other how should I put it, archetypal demons who come in the Bhagavatam, in the Vrindavan Leela. Krishna is killing a demon per day. So they have these qualities, but more important, we can see some of these qualities. I remember when I first read this chapter, I wasn't a devotee. I was just, reading my little penguin edition of the Bhagavad Gita. I said, well, that's pretty much what I'm like, expert at insulting others. That's also in here, So the idea is that these qualities impede our devotional service, impede our, and they ensure a lower birth in the next life. So we should guard against them and cultivate saintly qualities. All right, any comment on this particular verse? Yes, Prabhu.
Does the material world exist separately from the mind?
Does the material world exist separately from the mind? I would say yes. What do you think?
If it exists separately from the mind, then why does mind manipulate matter and matter manipulate mind?
Well, mind and mind is matter. It's a subtle matter. In other words, there's spirit and there's matter. Both are energies of Krishna. And these are called binna prakriti. They're described as binna. Boomer, apo, amano, vayu, kang, mano, buddhirevacha. Kamano buddhirevacha, how's it? Kang, mano, buddhirevacha, iti binna prakriti. Forget the third line, but these are my energies and they're separated. Binna means separated. Now, that's taken to mean, one meaning is it was separated from Krishna. He's more identical, if you will, with the spiritual energies in the spiritual world. These are the material energies. Then he is with the material energies. But it also means, I saw in the commentation, separate from each other. That the mind is not earth. They don't mix. These things are separate. Now, the whole world is composed of a combination of them, but they're inanimate. They're not conscious. That's the whole thing. They're apara prakriti. So these are like building blocks for the material energy. For our bodies are composed of these things, and it's a construction that Krishna gives because we're not fit to stay in the spiritual world anymore. The spiritual world means complete harmony with Krishna's will, and in the relationship of service and always recognizing supremacy of God. We wanted to have our own little universe. We wanted to think that we could compete with Krishna. So there's this whole, I don't want to say artificial, but this other manifestation of the lower energy that we're given to be absorbed in and identify with whatever body we're in, and on and on and on. So that's the way I understand it. Now, the mind is utilized by the living entity to interact with the material world. Intelligence also subtle. And since we're superior energy, we're para prakriti, we can manipulate, we can have some effect in the material energy. So that in that sense, there's a definite connection. But we don't merge. I'm not sure, there's a distinct difference. There's an eternal separation between these energies. The best I can do on that one. I never heard a question. Nice question, but it's a new one. Yes? Antonella had a question. We have another mic. Get the other mic. I only brought one out because we're late. Go ahead. Just hand it over. There you go. And we're running out of energy. Nobody's changing these batteries anymore. It should work for a while. Start talking.
Hello. Okay, sorry. Hare Krishna. I was just not sure because English is my second language, so what the word conceit means. I mean, I kind of suspect what it means, but if someone asks me, I'm not sure.
Well, conceit and pride are close.
So an example of a conceit.
Is that what you're asking? Abhimana conceit?
Yeah, like it says pride, arrogance, conceit.
Yeah, conceit means that, you know, I can hit 100 home runs. You know, some little kid says, you can only hit 60, you only hit 60 home runs. You know. Very proud of your
sense of superiority or entitlement.
Yes,
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Rather than, you know, the ideal of the devotee is humble. You know, even if you have a good quality, you know, offer obeisances to everyone and like that, and glorify. They don't want to glorify. They glorify themselves, the conceited people. All right. Yes, go ahead.
Prabhuji, I always had this question about Hiranyakashipu. You know, like they were earlier Jay and Vijay. So are they really demons, or they are playing the role of to show us how not to behave? I get confused because they were devotees earlier, and how could they, like, it's like a 180-degree flip.
Why not? I mean, all the demons, all of us were once in the spiritual world. The point is, it's a covering. It's not. He's not playing Hiranyakashipu. It's not playing. He really felt demoniac, but he took the benediction because it was like only three births as demons, or was it 6 or 8 births as devotees? You take your pick, and they wanted to get back faster to the spiritual world. There was an arrangement like that, so they took the birth as demons. There's also the aspect that Krishna wanted to fight. He wanted to enjoy fighting. And there's no fighting in the Vaikuntha. Everybody loves Krishna. No, there's nobody to fight with. So Krishna wanted some worthy opponents for his fighting. So when the 4 Kumaras, when they realized that they had cursed these devotees, they were very repentant and sorry and lamenting. And Narayan, he comes to the gate there. And it's interesting because the 4 Kumaras were established in Brahma Vidya. They were just like Shukadev. Shukadev wasn't a devotee at first. Shukadev Goswami, he was immediately born, took sannyas right away. He was in the womb for 16 years. You know, he didn't want to come out and get entangled. So Krishna had to come from Dwarka to convince him. Don't worry, you won't be entangled. So he comes out, takes sannyas. I don't know if he ever wore clothes. He just walked, and his father Vyasadeva was running after him. He wanted to teach him Bhagavatam. So he was also into Brahman. He's not a Mayavadi, but they preferred the impersonal. So then, the way I heard it, Vyasadeva sent some of his disciples out to chant some nectar shlokas from the Bhagavatam, which he'd already written, you know. And it was like Barha, Pidam, Natavada Bapu, you know, the scripture of Krishna and Vrindavan. And it attracted Shukadev's mind to come back and hear the whole Bhagavatam. And that's the meaning of the famous Atmarama shloka. There's this wonderful verse in the Bhagavatam that Lord Chaitanya explained like 64 times to Prakashananda Saraswati, I think first Sanatana Goswami. So Atma Ramaschamuniyo Nirgunda Apirukkame Kurvante Haitikim Bhaktim Ittam Buddha Ganohari. So Shukadev as well as the Kumaras were Atma Rama. They were self-satisfied. They were in touch with this Brahman, which is the foundation of complete happiness. Krishna says at the end of the 14th chapter. You know, so they went up to Vaikuntha, but they were stopped because they weren't devotees yet. The Jaya and Vijay were actually justified in stopping them. But they were still very saintly, you know, and he should have done more than just put the sticks down, you know, so you can't come in. So they became angry, which proves that they weren't really pure devotees. You know, they became enraged, and so they cursed him. Then Narayan comes, he hears the commotion at the gate, so he comes, and they smell the fragrance of his lotus feet, the 4 Kumaras, and the Tulsi Manjuris that are on the lotus feet. It's described, it's a famous verse. And they immediately underwent a great change, it's described, in their body and mind. They became devotees at that point, Vaishnavas. And so they lamented their cursing of the Vaishnava. They thought they committed tremendous sin. And they're, very sorry. And Vishnu would say, don't worry. It was my plan, And I think it's explained in the commentary that means that Krishna wanted to come down and engage in some fighting. And he needed to have, he wanted to fight with them, Anyway, it's like that. But they manifested. I mean, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were real demons. They weren't faking it. Their saintly nature had been covered. Just like Arjuna. Arjuna wasn't faking, at being in Maya. He didn't fake, the tears and the whole. He really was bewildered because Krishna wanted to speak the Gita. So this Arjuna was also put into Maya so that Krishna could speak the Gita, then he could come out and now by your mercy my illusion is gone, now I will fight. That's it.
But if you see, Prabhuji, what I understand is their intention was not to become a demon.
Their what?
Their intention was not to become a demon, right? So, it was not,
You're talking about Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu.
Yes, right? Jay and Vijay, they didn't had any intention to...
No, they didn't have an intention, but they were cursed to come down to the material world. And they were given a choice. You can come back after 3 births as demons, or you can come back as 6 or 8 births as devotees. So they said, okay, we want to get back faster, so we'll take the demons. And they came Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, and Shishupal, Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and Shishupal and Dantabhakra. Those were the 3 pairs. And then after that they went back. You know what I'm saying? But they were all real demons. I mean, they weren't faking it. In other words, it's a mentality. Inside everybody, every living entity is a pure devotee. We're all souls. But that consciousness can be covered. That's what we're trying to do. Purify our consciousness so we again go back. Who knows what bodies we've been in, we may have been some serious demons,
Choice, right? Demons they don't have choice. They are so conditioned that they connect themselves with the energies of Maya and they get dragged away, right? But they had a choice. They had a
choice. Either you can become devotees, but it'll take you longer to get back to Vaikuntha. They said, no, we'll take the bodies of demons. They wanted to get back quicker. You see what I'm saying? And so they had the mentality of demons and everything. Anyway, let's go on. We can talk about it later. Text 5. Daivi sampad vimokshaya nibandaya surimata mastucha sampadam daivim abhijatosi pandava. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Bandhu, for you were born with the divine qualities. Purport. Lord Krishna encouraged Arjuna by telling him that he was not born with demoniac qualities. His involvement in the fight was not demoniac because he was considering the pros and cons. He was considering whether respectable persons such as Bhishma and Drona should be killed or not. So he was not acting under the influence of anger, false prestige, or harshness. Therefore, he was not of the quality of the demons. For a Kshatriya, a military man, shooting arrows at the enemy is considered transcendental, and refraining from such a duty is demoniac. Therefore, there was no cause for Arjuna to lament. Anyone who performs the regulative principles of the different orders of life is transcendentally situated. Okay. So, Krishna is encouraging Arjuna, Ma Shucha, do not worry. You have divine qualities. And of course he does. He has these eternal associates of Krishna. He was there when Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita millions and millions of years earlier to the sun god, but he forgot. That's the difference. We forget from one life to another. So Arjuna has these divine qualities, and even though at the end he's killing all the enemy, including his teacher, and of course I don't think he himself killed, but he was on the main fighter and the side that did. Nothing was wrong because he was following Krishna's order. This was Krishna's plan, that the vast number of demons who were mostly on the other side, marshaled by Duryodhana, would be killed and eliminated, and religion personified in the form of Yudhishthira would then reign. Of course, the Kali Yuga still came in, and then there's a whole series of demoniac kings. You read them in the 12th canto, who are predicted to come. But there's also Lord Chaitanya who comes. And there'll be a 10,000-year hiatus in the degradation of Kali Yuga. And we're hoping that really comes to the fore really quickly, because it looks like it's really going down really fast. But that's Krishna, he can do anything. All right, should we go on? Okay. Dvav bhuta sarga lokesmin daiva asura evacha daivo vishtarashak prokta asuram partameshinu. O son of Pritha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is called divine and the other demoniac. I have already explained to you at length the divine qualities. Now hear from me of the demoniac. Purport. Lord Krishna, having assured Arjuna that he was born with the divine qualities, is now describing the demoniac way. The conditioned living entities are divided into two classes in this world. Those who are born with divine qualities follow a regulated life. That is to say, they abide by the injunctions in scriptures and by the authorities. One should perform duties in the light of authoritative scripture. This mentality is called divine. One who does not follow the regulative principles as they are laid down in the scriptures and who acts according to his whims is called demoniac or asuric. There is no other criterion but obedience to the regulative principles of scriptures. It is mentioned in Vedic literature that both the demigods and the demons are born of the Prajapati. That's Brahma. The only difference is that one class obeys the Vedic injunctions and the other does not. Now this is kind of a foreshadowing of the end of this chapter. At the end of the chapter there's like 3 verses that really, I always thought this is an important lesson to understand. And what Krishna said, he's describing what happens with the demons. They get born again and again in demoniac wombs and they're cast out, He says that, and then Krishna says that Trivadam narakasedam dwaram nashanam atmanam kama krodha tata lobha tasmat etat trayam chijay. There are 3 gates leading to this hellish destination: lust, anger, and greed. The wise person escapes these 3 gates. In other words, understands this and does things to counteract those influences. Etava mukta kunteya tamo dvarais tibinaraha achayat yatmanakshayas tato yati param gatim. Now, yati param gatim goes to the supreme abode. Those who can escape these 3 gates, tribadam nadakasidam dwaram, dwaram means a gate or a door, either to heaven or to degradation. Nashanam, which destroy the soul. You can't destroy the soul, but for a long time you can be compromised. Kama krodha tasmei tatrayam tajait, and one should escape them. Etava mukta konte tomo dvarais to be another. That human being who's escaped these 3 gates, acharat yatmanakshayas. Very nice, very important phrase. Acharat means acts. Atmanakshayas, for the ultimate benefit of the soul. In other words, is on the path of auspiciousness. And then tato yati parangatim, ultimately goes to the supreme abode. So this is the important choice. Then he comes back and he says, yak shastra vidam, then he describes the shastra, the last 2 verses, as Prabhupada's mentioning in the purport. Yak shastra vidam utsrija vartate kama karataha nasasidim avaptodi nasukam naparamgatim. One who disregards or discards the injunctions of the Shastra. This is vidhi. Vidhi means the rules and regulations of Shastra. Shastra vidam utsrija, gives them up, disregards them, doesn't care. And then how do we act? Well, on what criteria do we act? On kama. If it feels good, do it. That was the mantra of the 60s, So it's completely a question of how you feel. It's not on any higher authority. Then what's the result? Nasa siddhamavabda, that such a person does not attain perfection or happiness or go to the supreme goal. And then the last verse sums the whole thing up. Tasmat is a nice therefore verse. Tasmat means there. Tasmat shastram pamanam te karya bhavastito. It means that therefore take as evidence. This word pramana is very important. What do we take as evidence for how we should act? What we should do in this material world? We're taking the Bhagavad Gita as evidence. Most people don't. What do they take as evidence? Their own senses, their own mind. They like this, don't like this. It keeps changing during their life. So if you disregard the evidence of Shastra for what you should do, then you're going to not get happiness, not get perfection, not get the supreme abode. You're wandering around in this material world. So if we don't want that, we want to go back to Godhead, then we should accept genuine Shastra, the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, as that evidence, what we should do and what we should not do. And then Gatva Shastra Bhadanoktam, understanding those points of do's and don'ts, we should actually act in that way as a matter of duty. Because we're not going to do it spontaneously at first. It means that, okay, I want to do this, but I won't do it because it's prohibited in Shastra. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, and many others. And I'm going to do this even though I don't feel like doing it because it's recommended in Shastra. That's the whole idea. And by accepting that authority, the purification takes place and Krishna acts from within. And then the wonderful thing that happens, after a while, your old character it's almost like an old snakeskin or something. I wouldn't dream of doing that, what I used to do. I know that that's self-destructive. And now I know that I really should do this because this is, what my authorities want. The Shastra recommends the Guru like that. So that'll come at the end of this chapter. And of course, the demons are just the opposite. They don't want to know from nobody what they have to do, what they should do. They want to be like Hiranyakashipu. He's in charge of the whole universe. Even Narada Muni had to bow down. Only Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva were bow. He was so powerful. He was ruling with an iron fist. And then it's so wonderful. This little delicate boy, 5-year-old boy, his son, is speaking truth to power. He was fearless. Prabhupada was asked once, what's the basic mood and feeling that you have? He says, no fear. And he proved that. It's a wonderful story. Some of you know who the Naxalites are? Yeah, those in India. They're terrorists. They're communist terrorists. And they were creating havoc in Bengal. They're from Bengal. And they would kidnap rich people and hold them for ransom and sometimes murder and everything. So, the very first Calcutta Pandal, when Prabhupada went to India in the early 70s, he took 20 or 30 or maybe 50 Westerners, with him. Like Jamuna went there leading, Dinanath. He had black body, but he was a great drummer. He was in the kirtan, and he was an essential part of it. So anyway, they went all over and they would do these pandals. In Delhi, there was a huge pandal. The first one was in Bombay. Thousands of people came. Sarmasunda was very, very clever at propagating. He had a big balloon. They never saw anything like it. And one of these advertising balloons, helium. Hare Krishna land, come, this date and so forth. And thousands of people came. Thousands of people came to hear Prabhupada, Kirtan, Prasad, the whole thing. And then they did it in Delhi, then they did it in Calcutta. Now the first one in Calcutta, Prabhupada gets a note from the Naxalites, fly or die. In other words, we don't want to, because they're atheists, they're communists. So Prabhupada didn't fly and he didn't die. So he's in the tent, the Pandal tent, and they come in, they immediately recognize. So Prabhupada didn't flinch. He said, okay, give him some nice seats. So they got some nice seats, So, all right, okay. So then Prabhupada was playing the tambura and singing Brahma Samhita, and after all, they're, come from, that's the traditional, music, so they were pacified a little bit. Then Prabhupada, genius, he said, he had a conference with him. We're actually having, this Vaishnava communism. Because I was raised as a communist. What can I tell you? My father would take the book out of the shelf. He was hiding it. The FBI were actually after him. And he would take down Das Kapital in translation. And he would read it to me, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, still in grade school. And I was looking, and I don't remember much, thank God. But I do remember one phrase, one motto. That was it. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. This was the socialist ideal. Nobody owns, there's no private property, but the state is, you do what you can according to your psychophysical nature, and then you'll be maintained, and like that. So from each according to ability. That's the ashram. That's Hare Krishna. You join up, well, what are you good at? Okay, you do that, Anyway, so he disarmed them. They felt in life. So, but the main thing, he didn't have any fear. Coming to America, getting on that boat at age 69, failing health, no money, no contacts. I mean, you have to be on a completely transcendental level to do that. Either that or completely mad. And he wasn't mad. He was completely taking shelter of Krishna, and he was following his spiritual master's order, Lord Chaitanya's prediction, and miraculously he was successful. Not miraculously, because he had the divine power with him. So that fearlessness is there because he was following the scripture, following the orders, like that. So there's these two categories of beings. Bhuta Saga Loka. There's the Daiva and the Asura, the divine and the demoniac. So he's described the divine, now he's going to describe the demoniac. And the high point for me is when Krishna pretends to be a demon, and he speaks like a demon. Ishvaro, there's a mantra, demon mantra, right here. Ishvaroham aham bogi, siddhoham balavan sukhi. Ishvara, I am the controller, I am the master, Ishvara. Ishvaroham aham bogi, I am the enjoyer, I am perfect, powerful, and happy. Who can conquer me? That's the mantra of the demons. Krishna is imitating the demons. So we'll get that in a few verses, you'll see. It's very enlivening. All right, we're at the end, but let me end with a positive note, a little poem. And this is a little poem I wrote about the beginning of chapter 21, 10th canto, which is called the Venu Gita. And it's a song the gopis sing when Krishna starts playing his flute. And they're visualizing as he goes out in the forest all the things that he's experiencing. So this is an introduction to that. So I'll just give you the English. Vrindavan's rivers, lakes, and hills ring out with charming hums and trills as flocks of birds and maddened bees rejoice among the flowering trees. To those idyllic woods and glens repairs Govinda with his friends, Sri Rama and the cowherd boys, to taste the most exquisite joys. And as they walk along the way, absorbed in herding and in play, Sri Krishna, beauty absolute, begins to blow his mystic flute. With peacock plume upon his head and fragrant flower on each ear, he enters Braja's woods with tread sublime, a dancer without peer. His golden yellow raiment glows, his garland reaches to his knees, and from his lips the nectar flows and fills his flute with melodies. As Krishna thus begins his day with friends who sing his glories sweet, he beautifies the forest way with fine impressions of his feet. Samadhi culminates in this: to always see this scene of bliss within oneself and outside too. May Krishna give this boon to you. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Prabhupada. That last part comes from the Krishna book. Prabhupada describing it in the Krishna book. He said, this is really samadhi. This is transcendental meditation. To always see Krishna, in Vrindavan. So that's what we can do. Just read Krishna book every day and come to Bhagavad Gita class. Hare Krishna. The high point of which is reading the translations and the purports. Okay, so we'll begin with text 7 tomorrow. You're all invited. Hopefully we'll have a little team to help set it up. I'll ask Saul if he can come in early, because Jessica's not in town. I think she would do it. Hare Krishna. And you're all invited to stay for Kirtan.